All righty, welcome into the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave, cavetalkradio.com and the Cave Talk Radio app. It's good to have you aboard. Gary Ayd with you, and we're going till 11 today. It's a 1-hour program today. We'll be back to our full 2 hours tomorrow, and it's good to have you aboard. We got a lot to get to in this hour. We're going to have Randy Zellea of Vax Sports Page join us midway through the hour. We're going to be talking Giants and Nets with him, but right now it's time to talk a little NBA playoffs. Specifically, I want to talk about the one and only Los Angeles Lakers and the Milwaukee Bucks and the New York Knicks, all three. So let's start with the Lakers. Well, last night in a big game 4, it was easy to feel like, okay, you won your game at home, you can give up one. No. The Lakers come out, win a big one against Memphis. It's a 2-7 matchup. A lot of people forget that. Lakers get the job done. And, a long line of anti-clutch, choking down the stretch plays by LeBron James. He just couldn't get it done by making the game-tying shot at the end of regulation and then making the game-winning shot in overtime. The guy just can't get it done in the big spot. What a bunch of garbage. How many years do I have to hear that nonsense? Oh, I loved it. It was so funny. Like Dylan Brooks out here running his mouth. Now we won't talk to reporters because reporters made him the villain. You did that yourself. You even said you don't mind being the villain. And I quote, come on, man. I mean, this series, thank him, right? Really gotta thank him. This series has so much extra juice to it right now. And this is not a normal year in the Western Conference playoffs, right? Like, there's no known favorite. Like, in the West, if you were to say the Nuggets are going to win the West, okay, yeah, they're the number 1 seed. That makes sense. They were the best team all year. If you're going to tell me the Suns are going to win the West, all right, KD, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, I got it. DeAndre Ayton, yeah, sure, I can see it. You tell me the Warriors are going to come together for one more run, championship pedigree. Okay, yeah, they got another lucky break. Fox is now out with the finger injury and all that on the shooting hand. Okay, I get it. You say the Kings rally around, find a way to beat the Warriors in this series, even without Fox potentially, because the Warriors can't win on the road. I could buy that. And then maybe Fox gets healthy and they go to the finals. I could buy that too. You tell me the Lakers get it together and they're playing really good where they are right now and they take it all the way to the finals. Yeah, I could see that. That's the thing. This Western Conference is so up for grabs. Realistically, there's 3 teams right now down 3-1. Memphis, the Clippers, and the Timberwolves. So if we eliminate those 3, that leaves you with the Suns, the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Warriors, and the Kings. Obviously, one of those last 2 is going to be eliminated because they're playing each other. But if I were to tell you any one of those 5 were going to go to the finals, if you've been paying attention, none of them are crazy. All of them you can make a very easy argument for. So the Lakers are right in that mix, and it's amazing. It's so unbelievable that's the case because of how their season went. But that's what the West is this year. Obviously, there's a lot of injuries in this year's playoffs, a ton of them. But there's just so many different directions that this could still go. And I'm frankly surprised at how bad Memphis is, at how poor they've played. Really, they won the one game, and that game was even close for a lot of it. I don't know, man. I'm really surprised at how bad they've been. I have to be honest. I liked them all year, and I'm very surprised. But yes, LeBron, another in his long line of coming up short, coming up weak in the clutch. All he did was make the game-tying shot and the game-winning shot in overtime. Yep, weak. Can't make a clutch shot. Can we get over that argument? Are we done with that yet? How much empirical evidence, how many examples of the exact opposite do we need before we can put that argument to bed for good? How many more times has he got to do it? Look, he had a 2020 game. That's the first 2020 game in the Laker playoffs since Shaquille O'Neal in 2004. Shaq was a center in his prime. LeBron is a small forward in year 20. 20. We are holding this guy to a standard that is reserved for all-time great players in their peak years like 5 through 12, 5 through 13. This is a 20-year veteran that we are holding to the standard that is only reached at the pinnacle of greatness by other all-time greats during their peak years. And we are still in year 20 holding this guy to that same standard, and he's still reaching it. If that doesn't scream best ever, nothing will. Because the standard in which we hold someone to says a lot about what we expect of them. If someone is held to a really high standard, any coach will tell you this. If a coach holds you to a really high standard, if a coach is on you all the time, it's because they know what you're capable of. And that's true for the public too. If the public is on you, if the media is on you all the time, if it's never enough, it means they think you're Superman. And this guy has been put in that position since he was like 16 years old, right? Him and I are the same age, more or less. He's like 8 months older than me or something like that. So I've literally watched his entire public life, start to finish. I watched all of Jordan's career too. The thing is, we've never held an athlete to this standard ever in any other sport. The only other time I've seen anything close to this was the standard we held Tiger Woods to in his prime. But imagine if we held Tiger Woods to the same standard today that we held him to in 2005. Because that's what we're doing with LeBron, right? Like, yeah, Woods could kind of carry that standard in his prime. Maybe not quite as well as LeBron did, but that's explainable by the differences in sports. It's much harder to win a golf tournament than an NBA game. That's just the nature of it. I get that. So you could explain that away. But Woods could maybe carry that mantle, those expectations for a time at his absolute best. But he hasn't been a relevant golfer in 15 years. I mean, he's had a couple of flashes in the pan. We know he won the Masters a few years ago. We get that. But for the most part, he's more of a celebrity in the name and the brand than he is a competitive golfer for the last decade and a half, right? We're holding LeBron to the same standard we held him to when he was a 25-year-old in Miami, if not a higher standard, as now a 38-year-old, 20-year veteran in LA. And he's still achieving that standard. Folks, it's over. Jordan fanboys, your time has come and gone. This guy is so much better than Jordan. It's not even close. But to me, that was never even the argument. I know that is the argument, but to me, it was LeBron or Kareem. Before LeBron, it was Wilt or Kareem. Maybe Bill Russell, maybe Larry Bird, maybe Magic Johnson, and then maybe Jordan. Like, I always had Jordan somewhere between like 5 and 7 on my list. So it was never LeBron or Jordan. Like, to me, LeBron was so clearly a better basketball player so many years ago. This was never an argument for me anyway. But it is the argument. So what do you argue in favor of Jordan for? What does he win? Okay, he has 2 more titles. Okay, fine. Got it. Did he play against a dynasty team? No. LeBron's played against 2. Okay, he has the defensive player of the year. Okay. Yeah, he did. He's got more MVPs. Okay, so those are the arguments, right? I'm giving you the arguments. These are the arguments. Well, we all know MVPs, defensive player of the years, all-star voting, it's all very subjective. There's no question one area where Jordan is superior to everyone is in the media's love to build him up to be an inassailable Superman, almost a deity. He has by far the highest rating as far as the media trying to make sure that he is impenetrable. No, the media will never do anything to even insinuate he's immortal. They won't. Been going on for 30 years. It was probably started by David Stern. It was brilliant marketing for its time, but its longevity of keeping him sort of as a smiting god above the rest of us mortals, including all-time greats that have come since him, has, in my opinion, been an absolute detriment to the sport. Because what it's done is it's driven away an entire group of viewers, that 40-something and up crowd, that just can't take the fact that there's great players post Jordan. And there's even some that are maybe greater, namely LeBron James. So they run and hide in their memory banks. And in that process, Jordan's accomplishments grow. They become more impossible. Now, if you talk to a Jordanite, he never missed a shot. He made every shot of all time. He scored 100% of his team's points in all the important games. He never lost, all this other stuff. None of it's true, obviously. But that is the perception that has been created over decades of this consistent and relentless media campaign. So there's no question Jordan is the most distinguished brand in NBA history, both him as a personal brand, and the actual Jordan brand of merchandise. But I'm talking more of the personal brand here. And there's no doubt about that. But if you peel that away, if you have the independence of thought enough to peel that away, and you evaluate basketball players based on their actual abilities, not on their accomplishments, although, of course, those factor into it. But accomplishments come from two things. They come from abilities, first and foremost, and they come from how much the voters want to put you on that pedestal. LeBron has a lot of enemies in the media. LeBron has a lot of enemies in the public. And the reason for that is, unlike Jordan, who is a total wuss, wouldn't speak up about anything, LeBron shares his opinions openly. And half the country disagrees, half the country maybe agrees, and that affects his favorability, which trickles down to him winning or not winning certain awards as much as he maybe should have. And because of the persistent and constant desire of the media to keep Jordan as this deity, the awards that LeBron should have won more often, or at all in some cases, with the Defensive Player of the Year, are never going to be awarded to him because it gives him too much ammunition against that deity. They're not going to allow it. So those are the two things that determine a winning awards. It's the media's agenda and your abilities. Those are the two things. Now, let's talk about the abilities, because ultimately, when I evaluate any player in any sport, that's what we're evaluating. Who was the best? Who was the greatest, right? That's the question. And ability is what determines the answer to that question, not accomplishment. Because winning titles is as much luck as it is anything else. Like, look at the Golden State series right now. If Golden State goes on and beats Sacramento, forget winning a title. If they just go on and win this first round matchup with the Kings, so much of it will be because De'Aaron Fox didn't play the second half of the series, if that indeed ends up being the case with that broken finger. So that's luck. The Miami Heat having 2 games against the Bucks without Jimmy Butler, without Giannis, I'm sorry. That's luck. It has nothing to do with aptitude. So luck has a lot to do with winning. It really does. So winning championships is not the way to determine how good someone is. being in contention, being in consistent playoff contention over a long period of time in the NBA is a fair criteria, in my estimation, to include in your evaluation, because in the NBA, unlike in baseball or other than quarterback in football, a singular great player makes you automatically a relevant team. It doesn't make you a championship team, but it makes you a playoff team if they're truly great. Like someone like Kevin Durant is truly great. If he's on your team, you're gonna be in the playoffs. If you have prime Kobe, prime Shaq, LeBron, you're gonna be in the playoffs. A healthy Kawhi, those type of guys. By the way, I don't put Curry in this crowd. He's not proven that with him there and Clay and others not, that he can single-handedly drag a team to the playoffs. That's the standard. It's not winning a title. You don't win titles by yourself. That takes a lot of people and a lot of luck. But you can drag a team to the playoffs by yourself if you're a truly great player. Now, so there's that. The next thing I look at is how many things can you do well or great? How versatile are you? There's never been a more versatile player in NBA history than LeBron James. Never. Guard everybody 1 through 5. He can play 1 through 5 on offense. He gets blocks. He gets steals. He gets rebounds. He gets assists. He scores the ball. He does everything. He can shoot now. He gets to the basket. He can play in the post. He has the pull-up, fadeaway, mid-range game now. He's got the whole package. Most versatile player in NBA history. Then the next thing is longevity. Well, LeBron is the greatest player in NBA history by that measure, for sure, based on the fact that what I was just talking about a few minutes ago, he is at his peak still in year 20. We still hold him to the standards we held him to when he was 25 today in his 20th season. So he is the undisputable king of longevity. So when you take it all into consideration, he's the all-time scoring leader. He's going to retire with probably 10,000 rebounds and over 10,000 assists and maybe 40,000 points. When you take all the accomplishments in, you kind of add them in as the seasonings. We've kind of built the meatloaf here, right? Now we're just adding in the flavorings and then putting it in the oven and baking it and coming out with the finished product. When you put it all together, this is a much better meatloaf, much better finished meal than what any other player has ever served up, with the totality of their career being put together, seasoned, baked, and tasted. When you break it all down, there's no question about it. LeBron's a better player than Michael Jordan. There's no doubt about it. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We've got the question of the day next. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Coffee Lovers Middletown is now officially home to the home run of our favorite beverage, Days Coffee. Days' patented blend contains approximately 85% less caffeine than other coffees, which makes it better for you, yet unlike decaf coffee, still gives you that great pickup and tastes amazing. Formulated by a retired cancer pathologist, Dr. Grant Lee, Days Coffee is fermented with a patented enzyme that until now required a complex and thus expensive sourcing and production process. With Dr. Lee's formulation, this enzyme's great health benefits can now be brought to your cup quicker, easier, and cheaper than ever before. Here's how you get a hold of this game-changing cup of joe. Go over to radioonlydeals.com and get a $4 gift certificate to Days Coffee for just $2. That's radioonlydeals.com to buy your single-use digital gift certificate for Days Coffee. Radioonlydeals.com. That's radioonlydeals.com. Enjoy the preferred coffee of the Gary Ayd Show. Enjoy Days Coffee.
A Texas high school coach has resigned over the use of a broomstick. I am KO, back in 1 minute with your sports question of the day.
Would you like to hear better for as little as 10 cents a day? Now you can with the all-new Audion hearing aids. The average hearing aid lasts about 3 years. Ours, at only $99 a pair, means you're paying as little as 10 cents a day to hear better. And to make things even better, we'll give you a 45-day money-back guarantee. Skip the doctor and get hearing aids delivered straight to your door. We've eliminated all the middlemen to offer you a factory direct price of only $99 a pair. Join over 300,000 people just like you who took advantage of our 45-day trial offer. Now you can hear better too for just 10 cents a day. Call now and order your $99 pair of Audion hearing aids with a 45-day money-back guarantee. Plus, get free 3 to 5 day shipping.
800-226-1471. 800-226-1471. 800-226-1471. That's 800-226-1471.
Texas high school football coach Seth Hobbs has resigned from the Mineral Wells School District after claims emerged that he struck 2 football players with a wooden broomstick. Dallas radio station KRLD reported the broomstick was attached to a Nerf football. The device is one that is commonly used for drills. The school district investigated the allegations and determined that Hobbs had in fact struck the students, leaving one of the players with a mark. Question: do you or do you not think it's okay to physically discipline high school students?
You know, this is probably an unpopular opinion in 2023. I don't know that I'm wholly against some level of physical reprimand. I do think with the way things are, it's certainly understandable why the desire to do that would be there. I'll leave it at that. I don't know that I'm comfortable with it being permissible, but I don't know that I'm 100,000,000% against it either. But, big but, hitting someone with a physical object, that's a whole different story. That you can't do that. That's not okay. Like, if you told me the guy gave him a little backhand across the side of the head because he made a boneheaded play or he was arguing or giving a hard time, like, I could understand why people would be against it, but I could also, to some degree, if not defend it, at least understand it. And depending on other circumstances, I may or may not fire the coach for that. Hitting someone with a broomstick? Yeah, you can't do that. Like, that's not okay. No. That's not all right. It's just not all right. I remember a couple of quick stories to kind of illustrate the difference between these two. When I was a teenager, me and a couple of friends who lived on the same block, we were big Star Wars guy. And me and my friend Bobby was the second oldest of 4. Phil was his older brother, who also was in our trio of this story. He's the other character, me, Bobby, and Phil. Bobby and I were huge Star Wars fans. All of us were to a degree, but Bobby and I really got into it. So we would buy like the Jedi lightsabers, so our parents would buy them for us for birthdays or holidays or whatever, hard plastic, whatnot. And we would have lightsaber battles. Okay, cool. Well, Phil wanted to get on the act one day, and instead of going and getting his own saber and waiting for us, he picks up a broomstick, takes the head off of it, and starts swinging it around like a double-bladed Darth Maul saber. And we would fight him with this. He'd be whacking us, and it was crazy. Amazing no one lost an eye or something. And I look back on that and think, man, that was stupid. But we were kids. And when we did this, of course, we were out and about. We weren't in visual eye shot of parents, although sometimes we were. So I guess, hey, that's just how it was. Then the other story is this: I got secondhand. This isn't a personal experience. Number of my high school friends, a different Phil, and my buddy Richie played football, high school football. So I knew a lot of the football players, and I would go to some of the games and whatever. Well, there was one guy who graduated about 2 years before me. Well, 2 years before me, named Sean Doyle. Now, Sean had a mouth on him, and he could be disrespectful. One of the coaches, who's now dead, rest in peace, Dwight Smith, Mr. Smith, was a old school Vietnam War veteran. He probably served in the 60s because he was probably in his 60s when we had him. We're close to it. So anyway, he overheard Doyle one time, and I forget how this started, but Doyle said something derogatory about being with Smith's daughter or something of that nature. It was in the locker room. And again, this is a secondhand story. This was told to me. And Smith, who was probably 5'7" at the most, and probably 160 pounds. Doyle was probably 6 feet, about 200 pounds, something like that. Slams him up against the locker and tells him, if you ever touch her, I will end you. And that was the end of it. The locker room supposedly went silent, and Doyle really never said another word again. And I tell these stories to illustrate, one was dangerous and stupid, being swung at with a stick. Now, in our case, it was voluntary. I get that distinction, but still. The other, while probably would be condoned and lead to a firing today, built team respect immediately for Smith, although he was already respected, but it reinforced that respect. And most importantly, it instantly and permanently created that respect from a player who prior to that incident was not respecting him or anyone. So yes, he slammed the guy against the wall, a locker. He threatened him. All these things would get him fired probably. It didn't get him fired then. I don't even know that they got out except in circles. And it worked. So therein lies the conundrum. There's no doubt about it that done properly and within some constraint, things of that nature, backhanded slaps, slam against the locker, threatening words that you believe they would actually follow up on. You have to believe them to some degree for them to be threats. They do work. There's no question about it that they are effective. The question is, are they ethical? Is it okay for someone who's not that kid's parent to do that? I mean, there's even a lot of people that think parents shouldn't be able to do that. That's a whole different discussion. But there's no doubt that it works. That worked. So the question is, does the end justify the means when you tackle a question like this? Now, like I said, right from the beginning, in this specific example, you hit a student with another object, that's not okay. But if you backslapped him, pushed him, shoved him, hit him on the practice field, threw him against the locker, yelled at him, even threatened him in some way, that's a different discussion. It's a nuanced discussion. It's an uncomfortable discussion. It's probably not okay, but it's unquestionably effective at achieving, when done right by the right person, at achieving its desired result. So there is that. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to talk to Randy Zellea next. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Are you like me? You have health insurance, but you don't have dental insurance. Do you need to get to the dentist right away? Maybe you need an implant or some other major service. Well, I found a dental insurance plan that's just right for you. It's called Spirit Dental. Spirit Dental offers a $100 lifetime deductible, a huge network of dentists. And here's the best part. There's no waiting periods. Yeah, that means you can call right now and have real dental insurance for you and your family tomorrow and get that immediate coverage you want. Spirit Dental has plans for just a few dollars a day, up to $5,000 annual maximum, and coverage for implants. Whatever age you are, the dental insurance you need is a free phone call away. Now don't wait, and be sure to ask about Spirit's vision plan. Here's the number: 800-631-9229. 800-631-9229. That's 800-631-9229.
Hey friend, life happens and you need money. What do? You call the special toll-free number we're about to give you. We will send you a link to your phone with details on how you can loan up to $5,000. Couldn't you use $5,000 to pay for your rent, pay grocery bills, get your car repaired, or whatever you need? It's up to you. We don't care. We're just here to lend you the money. And we'll lend people money with good, bad, or no credit at all. Of course, some terms and conditions apply, and you'll see those on the link we're going to send you. So if you need up to $5,000 maybe as soon as the next business day, call this number right now. We will text you a free link with details.
Paid for by Money Mutual. Call 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. That's 800-586-7112.
Alrighty, we're back here on the Gary Ayd Show, and we are joined now by Randy Zellea of Back Sports Page. Him and I had our nice long basketball chat. We covered, I think, everything, Randy. We gotta be a little more targeted here. But what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Wait. Since we already had our chat, you guys don't need me, right? All right,
No one else heard that. Yeah, no, it was good. I mean, look, we went through the Western Conference quite a bit. Let's just start there for a second. I know it's not really the point of today, but I'm just curious. You've been following this league a long time, like I have. I mean, I can't remember. I can remember a lot of Western conferences in the regular season where there was like 9 or 10 50-win teams and they were all sort of bunched up, but there was still a clear number one that you knew was better than the rest. There were one or sometimes two. I got to tell you right now, if you eliminate the 3 teams that are one loss away from elimination, and you just take the Warriors, the Kings, the Suns, the Lakers, and the Nuggets, you, as far as I'm concerned, you could flip a coin 5 times to decide who wins this thing. I have no idea, man. I've never seen it like this before. This could go to any one of those teams.
Well, if you look at just from a pure basketball standpoint and from the way the season has gone, you would have to look at Denver. You would always look at Denver and say, look, the most balanced team. They probably play the best basketball, but it's a superstar league, and it's sometimes the sexy names will win, and sometimes also about who's hot. Like we talked about that with the East, and last night with Miami. But look, the Lakers are getting hot at the right time. Mm-hmm. LeBron and company has done a tremendous job of silencing the Grizzlies, and the Grizzlies who've had a real up and down season found themselves in the 2nd seed, and the Lakers. Look, the Lakers just are getting hot at the right time in the West. You have the Warriors, who I look at them saying, look, Andrew Wiggins has been gone all year now. He's starting to get himself into the game shape, and he's obviously the number 2 option behind Steph Curry. Klay Thompson is sort of put himself in that 3rd scoring role. It's very interesting to see now who's going to come out of the Western Conference. Looking at the remaining teams, I don't like Phoenix too much. I don't think they have the depth. That's what you get when you trade for Kevin Durant and you have to mortgage the farm a little bit to get him. You gave up 2 solid contributors in Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, who fit very well with that team. But the problem with the Phoenix Suns is they've gotten very stale, and you're relying on a very, very old Chris Paul. That was the problem years ago with the Atlanta Hawks. They had young talent in every position except for the point guard position, and it was to the point where Mike Bibby was just not able to do it anymore. And you just look around the landscape of the NBA, and you look around, especially in the Western Conference. If you're asking me now who I think is going to come out, I'm probably still going to say Denver, but with the Lakers, because they're getting hot at the right time and matchup wise, the Lakers could just as easily make some noise as well.
Well, you see, I mean, and I always struggle to talk about the Lakers because, obviously they're my favorite team, but I try very hard to be objective about everyone and everything that I like and dislike. And I think, just objectively speaking, Rob Pelinka, if Mike Brown is coach of the year, and I think he is and deserved to be so, I think Rob Pelinka, based on what he did at the trade deadline and on the waiver wire, should be executive of the year. I mean, he remade this roster on the fly in such a masterful way. I mean, they have so many athletes and versatile players, young legs, difference makers that all fit. They had none of that 2 months ago, Randy. I mean, he did a Houdini with this roster. He really did.
Yeah. There's always lots of conversations who should be executive of the year and those types of things. Because if you asked them the day before they made those trades, they were going to run them out of town. So
that's true. Look, I was one of those. I was one of those people.
So I always say, look, if you look at the moves that were made at the All-Star break, the Lakers were put in a situation to win not just this year, but also be in a position to be successful next year as well. The Phoenix Suns went all in. The Dallas Mavericks, I think the Dallas Mavericks took a risk.
Yep.
And the risk didn't pay off. The Nets, if you're looking from the Nets side of that trade for both the Irving and Durant trades, the Nets won for the future, but for the now, they hurt themselves. And, they're taking a step back. But you look at we could have gone back into the trade deadline wins and losses. For the remaining teams that are in the Western Conference right now, I think a Denver Lakers Western Conference final is a huge possibility. We discussed it before. Sacramento, inexperience and injuries are going to catch up to them. The Golden State Warriors are starting to get a little hot right at the right time. Plus, they're still the defending champions. Don't forget about that either. So they have a lot. They're going to be playing with a lot of pride. And you just look around the rest of the league, and the Phoenix, like I said, Phoenix is going to be struggling to figure out the roles of everybody. Durant for next season, you're only going to get about 60 games out of him to start with. So they're in win now mode for the next 2 to 3 seasons, and then it's over.
Right.
So you start looking around the league. I know it's a win now league. Same thing with the NFL. It's a win now league, but you also have to start planning your futures as well. So, to answer your initial question, I'm edging Denver just because they've been together all year, and they've been doing this all year, and it doesn't seem like they've had any moments that have been too big for them yet this year. So I'm going to stick with Denver.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Look, I think Denver is a good choice. I like them a lot. I like the Lakers. I think I think that will be the Western Conference Finals. I'm pretty sure about that. Let's go over the East. And the main point of this conversation. Let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets here for a second. You're working on a documentary, have been for a while. First of all, how's that going? Where are you with that?
It's a lot of start and stops because you have to get approval from not only the Nets, but you also have to get approval from the league. And we were trying to get all that approval and the approval and blessings without shooting a frame of it. So now they didn't give it to us, but our attitude is let's start shooting a little bit. Let's get some content recorded and on film, go back to them and show them what it really is going to be. And then we'll see what's going to be what. If not, we can always turn that into a very successful podcast series. And it'll work out very, very well. But you learn a lot about the franchise, especially how much I love the franchise because of my days of working there and being around it. And it was at a couple of the games this year after the trade, watching Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, and just seeing what it's going to be. The future could be bright, but there's some hurdles in the immediate future that they have to work through.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Now looking at that immediate future, what are you seeing? I mean, this is obviously a team that, as presently constructed, is going nowhere fast. I mean, this is not going to be the final rendition of this roster.
No. Right. The problem was when you initially put this team together with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, you wanted to bring in long, I don't say lanky, but players that can play multiple positions and do multiple things. And you bring in the Royce O'Neals, the TJ Warrens. You have some young players coming off the bench. You have a Nick Claxton. You can go up and down the roster. This obviously is not a final product. This is a team that finished below 500 since the Kyrie Irving trade. They were 2 games underneath the 500 mark for all the games they played the rest of the way. Not saying that there was not a lot of bright spots there, but this is obviously not a finished puzzle. And we've been hearing that they might go after John Collins to help complement the front line. They might want to make a move to get Damian Lillard. There's other possibilities of Siakam. It just matters where Toronto's going to go with their head coaching and whether they're going to want to clean house and start fresh and start selling pieces off, or if they're going to try and rebuild with what they have already there. There's a lot of different things, but Spencer Dinwiddie is a solid point guard. He's a guy who's going to probably give you about 15 points and 8 assists per game. Is that enough in this landscape of NBA where every point guard and shooting guard are trying to be superstars in this league. Is Cam Johnson's 16 points a game enough to boast him from being a number 3, 4 to 5 option in Phoenix to being the number 1 to 2 option here in Brooklyn? I don't think so. I think Cam Johnson's a great number 2, number 3. Sorry, a solid number 3, number 4 option. I think Mikal Bridges is a number 2, number 3 option. They don't have a number 1 guy.
They don't have a number 1 guy. No, I think Bridges is really, really good though. I like his game a ton.
I think that Bridges can be a great Robin to a Batman.
Yeah.
The problem is there's so many Batmans. There's only so many Batmans out there, and this is a conversation. This is going to start a whole other conversation, and I apologize for it, but we're getting from that Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Steph Curry point where we're not talking about what they can do to win now. We're starting to talk about their accolades.
Yes.
We need to figure out who the next faces of the league are. And I don't have a definition saying that this is the guy who's carrying the league in the next generation like LeBron did. Like there's certain players that we all look at.
I think Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, and Joel Embiid are probably, and Jokic. I think those 4 guys are sort of in that conversation. Where do you put Giannis though? Because he's sort of in between the 2 generations. He's not quite the Curry generation, but he's not quite the young guy either.
Well, here's the thing. Okay. There's certain things that you can say about certain players in this league to help solidify where their stature in sports, whether it's football, basketball, baseball. I said when Patrick Mahomes won the Super Bowl this past year, I said that put him on an elite level because he's now got 2 Super Bowls under his belt. Okay. Yeah, LeBron James won two championships with Miami, but it was always going to be with that asterisk march of it wasn't exactly his team, it was the big 3. When he went back to Cleveland and won it with Cleveland, that put LeBron on another level. You know, it made him that guy. It made him not even question anything about him anymore.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
My thing is, who do we have in the league right now that's coming up who's not those established stars that we just talked about, that we're sitting there saying this is his league?
Yeah. I mean, I think Luka is the closest thing. He's still very young, and he's clearly at the very worst one of the 7 best players in the league.
Okay, right. But I'm saying right now we have a little bit of time to get there.
Yes.
Like, and I know you're a Laker fan and you're going to fight me on this one, but that's okay. What I'm about to say. When Michael Jordan stepped down, back in 1998, and the Bulls, he left the Bulls, he retired the second time after the lockout. It was supposedly Kobe's league, but at a time where we didn't have as much access to see Kobe enough on the East Coast and in the Central Time, it was hard to grant Kobe the king of the castle because the majority of your NBA audience couldn't see him consistently. Remember, we're at a point where social media and YouTube and
didn't really
NBA
exist yet, right?
Yeah, they didn't exist it. So there was a gaping hole, and Michael came back and played with the Wizards, gave the league a little bit of boost, and then when he retired, LeBron came in, and then we watched the journey of LeBron James.
Yep.
And Kobe sort of got the shaft of that. Like the NBA wasn't going to hook their saddle to Allen Iverson. They weren't going to hook their saddle to Vince Carter or Tracy McGrady. They weren't.
Nope. It's true.
So that's, I guess my question is, who's going to be able to take over that mantle once we get there? Again, it's a whole nother conversation for another time.
Yeah.
But it's something to think about.
It is something to think about. All right, let's do a little football real quick. Before we get to the Giants, I got to ask about the news of the day in case this continues. Aaron Rodgers finally moved to the Jets. Look, I was making this case yesterday, right during the show yesterday. The report by Ian Rappaport from NFL Networks broke that they were re-engaged and something could be done this week. Of course, it got done that day, like a couple hours later. But my thing was there was the 2 sides were both pretending that they had leverage. I thought the Jets had, I thought the Packers had all the leverage because they didn't have to trade him. They could just as soon keep him. What's he going to do? Sit out, or he's going to play? The Jets needed this to happen. I mean, I know there's a lot of Jet fans that have mixed feelings about this, but the fact of the matter is, you have Zach Wilson and a guy collecting AARP on your roster right now. You didn't have a quarterback. You did all this stuff in the offseason, a lot of it for Aaron Rodgers. You have a good roster. You have a solid coach. You have a pretty good executive. You're supposed to be a playoff team next year. If you came into the year with Zach Wilson, you weren't going to be a playoff team. The Jets had to do this trade, didn't they?
Well, they had to do the trade, but I also think I think the Packers had no leverage, to be honest with you, because if he retires, there's money still on the books. If he stays, you have a disgruntled star, and then you're also hurting who's supposed to be his heir apparent. Yeah, this eerily made me feel like Brett Favre all over again. Right. The Jets were a quarterback away, and as soon as Derek Carr came off the board, it was all bets are off. It was Rodgers or nothing, even though Lamar Jackson's still dangling out there. I think the Jets, you can always say that they're a quarterback away because the way their pieces are. Well, let's see. This is what the old adage of going in on it. You're now going in on it. And I think this puts them ahead of the Patriots in the division. I think this puts them in the same conversation with the Dolphins. I don't think that they're better than the Bills yet. So that's going to be as time tells. We'll see how they go against Buffalo. We'll see. I don't know. That's
I don't like them against Buffalo. Although I will say Buffalo has atrophied a little bit to me. They're not quite what they were. But
no, I think when you have Josh Allen has become very battle tested. Yes. I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers hasn't, but the same conversation we had about Patrick Mahomes a few minutes ago on how winning that second Super Bowl puts him on another level. Aaron's got one. And yeah, he's thrown a couple of Hail Marys to win some games, but Aaron's got a chip on his shoulder, like he's got something to prove. And he would like to win a Super Bowl, and he would like to be one of those Super Bowl guys who wins a Super Bowl on two different teams. I think that would be very, very, very interesting. Yeah,
it would be wild if he won it for the Jets too. That talk about a team that would that would make him like an all-time cult hero. But last thing, touching on the Giants real quick, I was saying yesterday, this team badly needs wide receivers. I know they have a lot of salary cap issues, but they brought in Waller, which should help quite a bit. Great tight end. But what do they do to get some guys who can take the top off the defense here a little bit, Randy?
Well, I think when you look at the New York Giants right now, you have to be very careful. And it's almost like treat it like kids with kids' gloves. Because last year they found lightning in a bottle. They won a couple games probably they shouldn't have won. And you had a very, very good motivating head coach who was able to get guys to run their head through a wall for him. Now you have to be careful that the message doesn't get stale. They're still in salary cap hell. Look, they did a couple contracts I wasn't really thrilled with. I didn't love the Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton re-signings at the pricing they got those guys at. Right. They basically thanked Slayton for being a good soldier. Not Slayton. Both guys. I'm sorry. They Shepard and Slayton for being good soldiers last year, both taking pay cuts, and Shepard being with the team. Didn't have to be there. Wan'Dale Robinson went out with injury. After he went down with injury, we didn't see him the rest of the year. So, when I say we haven't seen him around the rest of the year, we haven't seen him in the locker room. We haven't seen him around the team. We haven't seen him anywhere. So there's a lot of different things that go with the wide receiver position. Obviously, you want to go in the draft because you want to build your own guys. You don't want to start getting guys from other teams with high salary numbers because it just messes your cap up more. Right now, the Giants' biggest problem is they just paid another defensive player $8 million yesterday. And that money's going against the cap. And now they're over the cap. And they haven't even gotten their draft picks and signed their guys yet. So I think what the Giants might do is they might trade out of the first round. The general feeling I have is they don't want to guarantee some money spots, especially when they don't have it, to guys who are going to be unknowns. Now, one thing they can do to free up some money is they can either cut or restructure Leonard Williams, which has not been talked about at all yet. Leonard Williams is making $32 million this year, and if you restructure him, you can get him down to 20. You can open up $12 million and still have some more flexibility and to make some possible moves.
Right.
If you cut him, you have a lot of dead money on the cap, but it still opens up some money to still make some more moves. So
and the other thing, he's also such a good player. You really don't want to cut him.
you don't want to cut him and you want to try and keep him.
Yeah,
But the
he's so
problem is
good.
everybody else is not making more than, 10 or 11 million, $12 million. They played games with Daniel's contract and they got it to work. But you still have to figure out what you're doing with Saquon Barkley. And that, I sat in a press conference last week with Joe Shane, and Joe Shane was getting annoyed with everyone asking him about Saquon Barkley. It's a relatively fair question because it's $10 million.
Right.
And they're $4 million apart. But now if you're paying another defensive guy $8 million, that's where are you getting this money from? And how are you going to be able to pay Saquon Barkley? And I think it starts and stops with Saquon. They set up Daniel for a contract where they have an out after 2 years. But if you keep him going into year 3, you owe him a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and I said this, and we'll kind of close with this. I want to get your take. I personally believe Daniel Jones had one okay year because of a great offensive coach and, in my opinion, the best running back in the NFL. I do not believe Daniel Jones is capable of a whole lot more than what he did last year. I think his best case is basically the Alex Smith category of don't screw it up. And that only works if you have a guy that the defense has to bend toward. And that guy is Barkley. I mean, to me, Daniel Jones is not a starting quarterback in the NFL without a threat like Barkley. That's my opinion.
You're not wrong on that, but you're also not right either. I think in the able system, Josh Allen started this slow. Where they contained him to do A, B, and C instead of going right to EFG. We're just going to stick with ABC for right now, and then we'll get into EFG later. And you eventually expanded them out. You had 3 years of Daniel being sort of reckless, and he was able to now be able to do that. Played 16 games this year. It's at the 17th game because they already clinched the playoffs. I think they're still trying to bring him along slowly. I still think the jury's out on it. I think that's why you're giving him 2 more years. In 2 more years, if you see that you're getting the return on him, then they're gonna. That's why they have the opt-in for those other 2 years where he's gonna get a ton of money. But this year and next year, it's $12-13 million, and then the rest of that money comes in years 3 and 4. So you're giving yourself an out. So the quarterback position is not as much of a concern as you do of other pieces. And from a draft perspective, I've been saying all along, you got your right side taken care of with Evan Neal. You got your left side taken care of with Andrew Thomas. Now you really have to focus on the interior. You want to build up strength and depth in your offensive line. So if you have an injury, nothing changes. And that's still a very big, strong point. And that's one of the reasons why Eli Manning was running for 10 years of his life.
True.
He was able. People criticize Eli Manning on how he was with interceptions, everything of that sorts. People don't realize after that second Super Bowl with the Patriots, starting in 2013, Eli Manning was running for his life. Didn't have help from the offensive line, so he was still able to win games, but also have to turn the ball over with no offensive line.
Yep. There you go. All right. Well, good stuff, Randy. Hey, thanks for joining us. Good luck on that documentary. Let us know how it goes.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Have a good one. That's Randy Zellea. This is the Gary Ayd Show. And that's about it for tonight. For today, we got a couple minutes left. I'll tell you this one last thing. I think the Giants are playing with fire. I really do. If you're not going to re-sign Barkley, there is not one threat other than Waller on this entire roster. Really, well, you have injury-prone receivers. You have, who are older now. You have Daniel Jones as a mobile threat. There's no question. And then you have Waller. If I'm a defense, why would I not hard double Waller? Just jam him on the line, have a safety over the top or a linebacker over the top. Like, go to anyone else. I'm gonna jam him with an end or a linebacker, have a guy kind of shade him over the top, and then I'm gonna have another guy spying on Jones to run contain. I'm not scared of anything. Now, if Barkley's back there, now I can't do any of that because I need, a lot of guys in the box, 7-8 guys in the box at least. Probably at least 7 to try to contain him. And if I have 7 guys in the box, I can't double Waller and spy on Jones. I got to give up something. I got to either play Waller in single coverage, which is probably what I would do, or I have to not spy on Jones, which is asking for trouble. Everything in this offense hinges on Barkley. Everything. So I think they're playing games. I really do. All right. Well, that does it for us. We'll see you again tomorrow. It is the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.